Irish 101 Game Day is sponsored by the Notre Dame Football Heritage Project. Commemorate your first Notre Dame game with the Notre Dame Football Heritage Project certificate and help Notre Dame journalism students cover the Notre Dame Navy game in Dublin next season. Visit mysportsheritage.com. Irish 101 is also sponsored by Irish Illustrated. Become a subscriber today on the web at irishillustrated.com. And by Indiana Dunes Tourism. Why not extend your Notre Dame football weekend with a trip to the nation's newest national park? For information, visit indianadunes.com. Here's how the game ended last weekend against the third-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. As the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame dropped a 23-17 decision to the third-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Welcome to Irish 101 Game Day. I'm Len Clark alongside Phil Houk of Fighting Irish Preview. This afternoon at Notre Dame Stadium, the 10th-ranked Fighting Irish, with a record of 2-1, will take on the undefeated and 18th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers. Phil, this is a game where the Irish need to come back and put one in the win column.
Well, last week, it's all well and good to say we had a good loss and we played really well against the number 3 team in the country, Georgia. But this week is the week where Notre Dame is going to really define their season. They're playing a really good football team, ranked number 18th in the country. Notre Dame needs to show that they can recover from a highly physical game and play well today.
Keys to the ball game for Notre Dame.
Notre Dame's got to get the win, first of all. The season won't mean much if they don't. But the key is going to be, I think they've got to develop some sort of running attack. Their passing attack has been pretty good. Get some running game going. They couldn't do that against Georgia. Hopefully they can do that this week. Keep Ian Book clean. This is a defense that's going to rush the passer extremely well. Number 1 in the country in sacks, Virginia is. And defensively, they've got to bottle up Bryce Perkins, who's a dual threat quarterback, and that can really cause some problems for a defense if you don't keep him inside the pocket.
Kickoff time, 3:42 this afternoon at Notre Dame Stadium. Earlier in the week, Coach Brian Kelly talked about the 4-0 Cavaliers, and for senior safety Jalen Elliot, who is from Richmond, Virginia, he talks about playing Virginia.
They know what's at stake for them this weekend. They're playing a really good football team that's nationally ranked. I think it's the first time they've been ranked for 3 weeks in a long time. So they feel really good about themselves. They're going to come in expecting to win. So they're going to be challenged, and they're going to have to respond. You want to find those things out. I got a good feeling that they're going to respond in the right way. But again, it's closer to defining who you are after coming back from a loss than it is any time after a win. Virginia has their attention. There's no doubt about that. So they know that they have to pay attention to their detail and play well against a quality opponent.
The 10th-ranked Fighting Irish are preparing for this Saturday's home game against 18th-ranked Virginia. The Cavaliers come into the game with a 4-0 record to face the 2-1 Fighting Irish. The game will be extra special for senior safety Jalen Elliot, as it will give the Richmond, Virginia native a chance to play against a school from his home state.
We're just trying to play each week. I don't really know, per se, how we can say we're close enough to our goal. We're just trying to continue to push for each other, like I said.
What's it like to play against your hometown team now this year at home?
Oh, man, it's a great feeling anytime you get to play against a team that's from home. Can't wait to, have all the other people watching at home and just, try to put on a show for them.
How many people are coming? I saw that you tweeted that you got a lot of people coming to the game. How many family members, friends you got coming?
The travel out here is pretty far. It's an 11-hour drive, so not too many people will be coming out here. But, just my immediate family.
For a preview of today's opponent, let's go inside the Len Zone with the voice of the Cavaliers, Dave Cain.
Saturday afternoon at Notre Dame Stadium, the 10th-ranked Fighting Irish will host the undefeated and 18th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers. With a preview of Virginia, here's the voice of the University of Virginia Cavaliers Radio Network, Dave Cain.
When the Virginia football team lands at South Bend, Indiana, they'll be trying to do something that no Atlantic Coast Conference team has been able to do to this point, and that is namely beat a ranked Notre Dame team at Notre Dame Stadium. To this point, the ACC is 0-20 in that setting, and for a Virginia football team that has never played at Notre Dame Stadium, the task is a tall one. And for that matter, Virginia has struggled to play, doesn't matter who it is, away from home through recent years. You go back to 2016, it was that season that the Cavaliers snapped what was at the time a 17-game road losing streak against the Duke Blue Devils, and so Virginia trying to turn those fortunes around. And since that time, well, they haven't been at their best away from home either. Virginia going just 4-10 since that win against Duke back in 2016. So obviously that's been an area that Bronco Mendenhall has been looking to clean up. To do it in this game, well, Virginia's going to have to find a way, I think, to put pressure on Ian Book. That's at the heart of this thing. It's strength on strength with Virginia's defense going against that strong Notre Dame offensive front five. The Cavaliers come into this game leading the nation in quarterback sacks with 20 of them through 4 games, and that's from 8 different players. You can make the case on the other side of the football it'll be just as important for Virginia's offensive line to play above its weight class. The Cavaliers a week ago, at one point in their game against Old Dominion, were playing without 3 players due to injury on that front 5, and you got to think for Virginia to have a chance to pull the upset in this game, they're going to need a really big performance from the front 5 blocking against that Fighting Irish defense.
For a preview of today's opponent, let's go inside the Len Zone with the voice of the Cavaliers, Dave Cain. With more on the series history between Notre Dame and Virginia, here's Len Clark.
The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame and Virginia have met twice previously, the first game back in 1989 at the Meadowlands in the Kickoff Classic when the University of Notre Dame defeated the Cavaliers, and the last time down in Charlottesville in 2015 when quarterback Deshaun Kaiser came in for the injured Malik Zaire and threw a 40-yard touchdown pass to Will Fuller with 12 seconds remaining in the ballgame as the 9th-ranked Fighting Irish defeated the Cavaliers of Virginia by a score of 34-27. This afternoon in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame Stadium, the Cavaliers of Virginia will visit Notre Dame Stadium for the first time. The Irish have been in this situation before in the past with one loss. As Fighting Irish previews, Phil Houk has this report.
In 2017, the Irish were coming off a disastrous 2016, and Notre Dame Nation was hungry for success. But in Week 2, number 15 Georgia handed the Irish a 20-19 defeat. The loss motivated the Irish, who then went on a 7-game roll behind the strength of Josh Adams and 33 Trucking, and an oftentimes electrifying Brandon Wimbush. The streak ended at Miami, but the Irish ended a great season at 10-3 with an exciting 21-17 come-from-behind win over LSU, featuring Ian Book's coming-out party in the Citrus Bowl. In 1992, a team loaded with NFL first-round picks, including Rick Meyer, Jerome Bettis, and Bryant Young, tied Michigan in Week 2 and lost to Stanford in Week 5. But the Irish won everything else, including the famous Snow Bowl game against Penn State, and finished things up in the Cotton Bowl, beating Texas A&M and finishing at 10-1-1 and ranked 4th in the nation. And the best example of the Irish recovering from an early season loss to a great season? In 1977, Dan Devine's Irish were loaded. Ross Browner, Luther Bradley, Ken McAfee, Bob Golick, Joe Montana. Expectations were sky high for the squad, but they were tripped up in Week 2 at unranked Mississippi 20-13. but the Irish overcame that shock and rolled through their next 9 regular season opponents, including a 40-9-19 stomping of number 5 USC in the famous green jersey game. The 10-1 and number 5 ranked Irish then traveled to the Cotton Bowl to take on the great Earl Campbell and number 1 Texas. That day, ND kept Campbell out of the end zone, and Vegas Ferguson scored 3 times en route to a 38-10 rout of the Longhorns. After the game, the Irish were voted the national championship, their 10th in program history. Next up on Irish 101, Kevin Sinclair has this week's Irish Illustrated recruiting update.
This weekend, Notre Dame looks to sort of get back on track, so to speak, versus Virginia. Last weekend, playing down in Georgia. A few Notre Dame prospects were actually at the game in Georgia, speaking with one of the more important ones who were there last Saturday, a guy from Athens, Dion Colsey, one of Notre Dame's top 2021 wide receiver recruits. I spoke with Colsey this week. We have a story up at Irish Illustrated. But in a nutshell, really, sort of seeing that Notre Dame played a great game, certainly said that, his opinion on Notre Dame actually sort of rose from just seeing how hard Notre Dame battled versus a really strong Georgia team. But sort of getting back to this weekend, Notre Dame sort of having its first, big recruiting weekend. But again, in this 2020 class, the class nearly full, really only a few scholarships remaining, those very likely all going towards the defensive backfield, and that's what we'll see this weekend. Raymond Henderson in the 2020 class, a defensive back out of the West Coast. And as well, there'll be 3 Notre Dame commits there, Aiden Kianena and Gabriel Rubio, a few defensive tackles, tight end Cain, and a whole host of 2021 prospects and a few in the 2020 class. You can check out our whole preview at Irish Illustrated, but Notre Dame looking to make an impression. Raymond Henderson, the guy to keep an eye on.
Tight end Cole Kmet made his season debut last week at Georgia, and in his first performance since breaking his collarbone, the junior out of Lake Barrington, Illinois, caught a team-high 9 passes for 108 yards and a touchdown, and we caught up with him earlier this week.
It felt good. Obviously when you get back on the football field, it feels pretty good, and come out and just play against an opponent like that and play as well as it did, it felt really good.
Did you expect that? Did you know that you'd be able to do as much as you were able to do in your first game back?
I didn't know how my conditioning would hold up and all that stuff, but I just kind of went with it. And when you're in the game and in the moment, you just kind of keep going. So,
what was the process like for you to get back to this point? And when did you kind of know for sure? Okay, I'm definitely going to be ready to go for Georgia.
Yeah, it was definitely just a lot of conditioning, staying in shape throughout the time of when I wasn't able to do much on the field. And I remember I got an X-ray about a week and a half out, and they said it looked pretty good, and I should be cleared by Georgia. And so that was kind of the goal date from the beginning.
Did you expect to see the ball come your way that early in the game?
I knew the first play was coming in. Yeah. Coach Long told me we're going to get you going, so I knew the first one was coming. And usually with him, if you make a play, he's going to come back to you. So yeah, I knew they were going to come.
Did you take anything out of being injured? Did you learn anything?
So last year I was hurt too. I was out for a couple games. You always appreciate the game more when you're hurt, and you always want to be out there with everybody, and you definitely just appreciate the game more.
How frustrating was it you were going to be the top tight end on the depth chart to start the year, and to have that happen? How frustrating was that?
It was frustrating, but you just got to keep your head up and keep going and keep working, because I knew I was going to come back, and kind of when it happened, it wasn't like I was going to be out for a big chunk of the year. So you just got to stay positive and keep working and wait for your opportunity.
Coming up at 3:42 p.m. Eastern Time, the 10th-ranked Fighting Irish will face the 18th-ranked Virginia Cavaliers. Go to irishillustrated.com for a preview with Tim Priester and Tim O'Malley and get post-game analysis after the game. Irish 101 is made possible by Irish Illustrated, Indiana Dunes Tourism, and by the Notre Dame Football Heritage Project. Help Notre Dame journalism students get over to Dublin next year to cover the game by purchasing a Notre Dame Football Heritage Project certificate. Visit mysportsheritage.com. For Phil Houk of Fighting Irish Preview, I'm Len Clark of Irish 101. Go Irish!